Well, the 28-point plan, has a number of important elements which are essential to a just and lasting peace.
This plan today, first of all, was not negotiated with the Europeans, yet it stipulates many things for the Europeans.
Then he can continue to fight his little heart out.
Hello? How are you? Well, the 28-point plan, has a number of important elements which are essential to a just and lasting peace. And that's what we all want. There is more to do on the plan. And we've had a meeting this afternoon of like-minded leaders from the Coalition of the Willing, who are here at the G20, to engage on that. And tomorrow in Geneva, there'll be a meeting of senior US personnel, of Ukrainians, and of NSA's, national security advisors from Europe, including my national security advisor, to take things further forward.
And have you spoken to President Trump yet about this peace plan personally?
Well, I talk to President Trump frequently, and I'm expecting to talk to him again in coming days. But look, there's been a lot of discussion in the last few days at the European level with the Ukrainians. It is fast moving, as you say. I think the focus very much now is on Geneva tomorrow, and whether we can make progress tomorrow morning. Well, we're talking to President Zelensky pretty well continually. I spoke to him yesterday, along with Chancellor Merz and President Macron. I'm expecting to talk to President Zelensky again in about an hour or so, hopefully, if we can set that up. And of course, we'll be there in Geneva tomorrow. It is important to keep firmly in mind what we're all trying to achieve, which is a just and lasting peace. But also underpinning that is the principle that I've always adhered to, that all matters about Ukraine must be determined in the end by Ukraine. And that's why we're talking very regularly with the Ukrainians. Well, I'm absolutely clear in my mind that President Trump wants a just and lasting peace, not just from the actions he's taken towards that end, but also from the private discussions that I've had with him one-to-one on this issue. So I know what he's trying to achieve. We all want to achieve that, and that is what our focus is. I think it is important to say that one of the elements in the 28-point plan is the security guarantee from the US, Article 5 guarantee. That's about the strongest guarantee that can be put forward. And so that fortifies in me the belief that what we're all trying to achieve here is a just and lasting peace, but it'll only be just and lasting if there are security guarantees and if we bear in mind that matters for Ukraine are always to be determined by Ukraine.
I am not going to negotiate what our Sherpas are doing, but we can clearly see that there is a peace plan that has emerged which includes ideas that are quite familiar, whether they have been shared or not. It is good in the sense that it proposes peace and it acknowledges important elements on issues of sovereignty, security guarantees, and others. But it's a basis for work that needs to be readdressed, as we actually did last summer, because this plan today, first of all, was not negotiated with the Europeans, yet it stipulates many things for the Europeans. The frozen assets are held by the Europeans. The European integration of Ukraine is in the hands of the Europeans. Knowing what NATO does is in the hands of the NATO members. So there are many things that cannot simply be an American proposal. It requires broader consultation. So I think we must first say we all want peace, and we are coherent. We want this peace to be robust and lasting. And for that, we need elements that we have already put forward on several occasions. And so that's why, as of tomorrow morning, the American negotiators will arrive in Geneva, the Ukrainian negotiation team will go there, and the negotiation team of the European Union, Germany, the United Kingdom, and France will go there to bring substance back to the table and reconcile all these views. But I think any initiative that moves toward peace is good. Now, we know under what conditions this peace is acceptable. It must take into account the elements that allow for a just and lasting peace for the Ukrainians and consider security elements for all Europeans. Why would this point be unacceptable? I will not negotiate very much for what our Sherpas do, but we can clearly see that there are elements regarding the limitation of the Ukrainian army's format, which pertains to its own sovereignty. We know that if there are no elements of deterrence, the Russians will return and break their promises. We have seen this several times, especially concerning Ukraine in February 2022. So we want peace. I think it must start with a ceasefire, and that too is something we can try to achieve in the short term. I note that since March, when President Zelensky agreed on the ceasefire, it is Russia that has always said no. But we have elements that we had already worked on again, by the way, in spring-summer, and after the meeting that was held in Anchorage. So there you have it. We will recreate a moment of reconvergence to try to have a common text. On Ukraine, Mr. President, South Africa, was not invited to the discussions on Ukraine. It is a mediator country in the crisis, and they were not there, they were not counted. So it's a very simple way because we are talking about the security of Europe, and so it was a coordination among Europeans to prepare for the meetings in Geneva tomorrow. And so, to be very clear, as there are a few European countries that are active in the discussion, for the sake of efficiency, it is completely normal for us to coordinate. Moreover, we coordinated with the Europeans and also the coalition partners who were present and who are non-European. Mark Carney was there, the Prime Minister of Japan, to name just a few examples. We also made a decision beyond the process, and we are going to organize, in connection with Keir Starmer, a video conference meeting of the Coalition of the Willing that, as you know, we have built since February. At the last meeting in Paris which was held, this coalition of willing that has more than 30 countries, European, but also allies. So we will hold a meeting Tuesday afternoon to coordinate on this point and see what progress has been made during the negotiations in the coming days in Geneva and to be able to take new initiatives. I will perhaps finish in French and I will switch to English, don't worry. The negotiations start tomorrow. They are going to be complicated. Are we facing a major risk of breaking with the United States? No, I won't engage in political fiction here, and I think that each time, we have managed to reconverge. The United States of America plays an important role in supporting Ukraine, and we need their support for this war of resistance. They have made proposals, and I think that all those who are too critical are wrong to overlook the role the United States plays today. But we must then reconverge, because the United States also needs the Europeans to resolve this conflict. And it is very clear, moreover, in the 28 points that are put on the table. So this is the negotiation that will take place. And in truth, the people who will meet tomorrow in Geneva are only people who want peace, make no mistake. The tension is with Russia. It is Russia that triggered a war of aggression. It is Russia that, since March, refuses to cease fire. So I think we all need to remain calm and level-headed. We will work to align these positions with the same goal, to achieve peace, but not a precarious peace, a truly lasting peace for Ukraine and for the Europeans. Mr. President, still speaking about diplomacy, we haven't heard from you regarding the remarks made by your Chief of Defense Staff a few days ago about the sea battles. There have been many reactions. In France following, notably, these few words, "We must accept losing our children." Would you also use these same terms, and what do you think about the reactions in France? I will not comment. There is only one head of the armed forces in France, and that is the President of the Republic. And then, a connection and a command. With a Chief of Defense Staff, who has my full confidence and who delivered a speech that was much more elaborate than the sentence that was taken out. I can quite understand the tendency to extract a sentence and take it out of context to instill fear. I also see the overreactions that may have occurred. The Minister of the Armed Forces, like the Chief of Defense Staff himself, have been able, I believe, in recent days, to provide full clarity. And for all the people who sincerely wished to listen to what they said, to put things back in context and in calmness. There you have it. We have a strong army, of which we should be proud, which is engaged in dangerous operations in recent years, which has never failed in its mission and duties, and which we have strengthened through the decisions we have made and the 2 laws of military programming. And undoubtedly, it is truly the most effective army on the European continent today. And so we are proud of this army. I will also have additional announcements to make in the coming days and weeks. And that's what we need to focus on. And because that is what allows us, as I said again on July 13th, in the world we live in full of uncertainties and rising tensions, if we truly want to be secure, we must deter the other from coming. And so, I understand. If they only listened to part of it, yes, and I especially understand that it was twisted by many people who have another agenda. But I will not give in to the spirit of defeat, to the prevailing declinism. I believe that France must continue to be a strong nation, with a strong army, but also with the capacity for a collective rebound. That is, we are all, in the moment we are living in, facing contemporary risks, with a necessity to be aware of these geopolitical risks and to stand together. Together. There you go. But I call for unity. And I repeat, if we truly want to be protected in this world, we must be able to deter others, and for that we must be strong. Mr. President, are you ready to organize a G8 summit next year, if necessary? It is also, on the American side, the return of Russia. Listen, first of all, today, the conditions are not met. I am not into hypothetical politics, but today, the conditions are not met to reintegrate Russia. Secondly, the format depends on the unanimous opinion of all the members of the current G7. So I am not going to start, while France will take the presidency in January, to stipulate for others. We need consultations, and everyone must agree. However, I wish to build the French G7 by closely associating countries that are not in the G7, because I want to carry this agenda on international imbalances. And so there will be close consultation with Brazil, South Africa, India, China, and several others. So we will have an original and somewhat new format because we need unity.
Just regarding Ukraine, I mean, what do you all, as European leaders, plan to do in order to convince President Trump of some of the issues you all have? And is Europe in a position to support Ukraine should the U.S. withdraw its support?
I will not try to figure out some scenario. Where we are is clear. Ukraine, the U.S., and the Europeans want peace, but we want a robust and long-standing peace. I think it's very good that the U.S. proposed something to go to a ceasefire and peace, and we have to commend these efforts. But at the same time, as what is at stake is obviously Ukrainian sovereignty and European security. It's normal to have both the Ukrainians and the Europeans on the table to finalize this plan. So this is exactly what we will do tomorrow and the day after, in order to make a common plan. Now, we just have one problem, and our problem is not the US on this negotiation at this point. Our unique problem, all of us, is Russia, which started this war. We refused to take the ceasefire proposals in February, March, July, August, etc., and didn't provide any guidance if they are okay just to have a ceasefire now. And look at the humanitarian situation in Ukraine, not just in the east, but everywhere. Look at the situation of the infrastructure of energy and so on. Look at the civilian casualties. I mean, this is a necessity to stop the Russians. There is one aggressor and one victim. Full stop.
No, not like
Sir, do you still plan? Sir, do you still plan?
No, we'd like to get the peace. It should have happened a long time ago. The Ukraine war with Russia should have never happened. If I were president, it never would have happened. We're trying to get it ended. One way or the other, we have to get it ended. So, then he can continue to fight his little heart out.